All right, now we're going to talk about Chapter 3 and Chapter 4 of the AIM, airspace and air traffic control. We'll start off with the airspace. We're just going to go right into it. You notice 5 sections here. I like to open them all up. Again, I'm not going to go through and read every single item in here, but I will read or talk about some of the big items, things that you need to know. In the idea of VFR weather minimums, you're going to have to memorize these. This is a handy table that's the limitations are actually found in 14 CFR 91.155C. Here is a handy table. Know this, love this, learn this, memorize this. Just write this on your heart. You're going to need to know this. And then also VFR cruising altitudes. You're going to be asked questions. If I'm at 3,500 feet, and I'm heading westerly direction, am I at the correct altitude or whatever? For a lot of your flying, you're going to be flying in Class E airspace or Class G airspace. Understand that for aircraft other than helicopters, and then there's this. For helicopters, there's day, half statute mile clear clouds. For night, as provided, more than 1,200 feet AGL and greater than 10,000 feet MSL, then it reverts to the 1, 5, 1, and 2, night 3, 5, 1, and 2, and then above is 5, 1, 1, 1, 1. You're going to need to know these. So anyways, I wanted to point that out because that table is found in the AIM, where is in the FARs. For a long time, they didn't put the table there. I think they do now. When you want to look at Class C airspace requirements, here's the definition. Here's some charts. Here's the information. Like this is broken down for all of the different airspaces. And then here is actual list of all of the Class C airports broken out by like state name, and where they're out. Like North Carolina, there's Greensboro, Fayetteville, Asheville, Pope, and Raleigh, and then the airport name that is associated with them. Understand this is a wealth of information. I'm not again go through all of these, but there's a phenomenal amount of information that you have to be very familiar with as you're getting ready for your check ride. The AIM just in general is a phenomenal just resource to understand better about things. So if the FARs say 91205C talks about lighting, what is required, the AIM is going to have a kind of an explainer, a better understanding. So 91155, C talks about VFR weather minimums, and here in the AIM is a very good comprehensive explanation of the breakdown. The AIM itself, like for example, restricted airspace contains airspace identified on blah, 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 so on and so forth. And you can read through this and get a good idea. What's a warning area? What's a military operations area? What's alert area? Controlled firing, national security, that type of thing. So there's really good detailed information about all of the unusual information. And then other airspace areas like airport advisory or information services, MTRs or military training routes, TFRs, temporary flight restrictions, parachute, VFR routes. This is going to show you like all of the different VFR routes that are going to be printed on the like VFR transition route, transitioning. For example, this one is, I think, whoops, I zoomed in too much. Hartsfield, Atlanta. Yeah, so this is a VFR transition for Hartsfield. Basically go around and looks like there's nothing really going across, which is kind of interesting. Because like other airports, like Phoenix has a VFR transition route that allows you to transition over the Class Bravo, over the airport, directly over the runways, and those are kind of fun transitions. And then this gives information about the SFRA. If you're flying in and around the DC area, for you guys in Frederick or Leesburg or wherever, there's information about the background and information about the SFRA, what it looks like, and then the corresponding gates that are there. So what I'm doing is I'm not going to go through line by line on every single one. I'm just basically highlighting the big points, the things that, hey, you may want to look at this or dive in a little bit deeper. So flight service stations, there seems to be a lot of students that don't really understand what flight service stations are and what their mission is, that type of thing. Pilot visit to air traffic facilities. Oh, this is actually something that I'd recommend. Pilots are encouraged to participate in local all pilot / air traffic control outreach activities. However, due to security and workload concerns, requests, may not always be approved. Meaning, if I want to go visit LaGuardia's tower, I may have to, they may allow it, but it may be very restricted. I have to go through a background check, and it has to be a scheduled appointment, at least, 30 days out. Frederick Tower or Boeing Field Tower, like, a couple of airports that I've flown out of, I can call the tower and be like, hey, I want to come visit you guys. And it is an absolutely interesting experience. So if you ever get the wild hair up your butt, or if you have a tower near you, call them up and say, hey, I want to take a tour. I'm a student pilot, or I'm a pilot. I want to learn more about it from your, and then it's a great opportunity for you to ask a ton of questions to the ATC controllers to get really valuable information of the way that they look at pilots, and ways that we can make their lives a lot easier. So gosh, there's just a wealth of information here. I would encourage you to just go through on your own and dive into things. Oh, I want to learn a little bit more about aircraft call signs. For example, when can I drop the N? The N is never said. So it's Aztec 2464 Alpha. And then once they say that, then you can say, 64 Alpha, you can drop it. And just kind of wonderful information about radio communications, phraseology. I mean, it just goes on and on, like student pilot radio identification. So at the end of it, Dayton Tower, fleeting 1, 2, 3, 4, student pilot. So that lets ATC know, hey, I'm a student pilot. Maybe help me out a little bit. Be patient with me, that type of thing. I've actually, believe it or not, as a professional pilot, I've said student pilot. Now, I'm not a big fan of lying, but the guy was talking a million miles a minute, and he was being flippant. And when I got onto the radio, this guy was just, and so I had this convoluted thing that I needed to request, and at the end I just said student pilot, and that changed him in the ATC's communication with me dramatically. He slowed down, he held my hand, he was a lot more accommodating, whereas before he was getting all ornery and stuff like that. Phonetic alphabet, if you ever want to get nerdy and you're watching the cop shows, and they're like Delta Charlie Forrester, and you're like, well, that's not right. It's actually Foxtrot rather than Forrester. Whatever, you can be super nerd all you want, but here's the whole Morse code and the character. Anytime that we as pilots are using letters, know this, love this, memorize this. Here's how to say ATC communications and phraseology for directions and speeds and time, Zulu, all kinds of valuable information in here. Okay. Airport operations, operating with the control tower, traffic patterns. These are kind of fun because sometimes they'll actually show little diagrams. I'm a big visual learner. I need to be able to look at pictures to understand everything. But in the grand scheme of things, in the AIM, there's tons of pictures. And so it's oh, okay. When we are entering, we always want to enter on the 45 to the downwind. Helicopters sometimes can enter the base leg, or sometimes long final. It really kind of depends on the airport and local procedures. Here's a 2 runway scenario, that type of thing. How do you approach? Gosh, I mean, there's so much information. Traffic control light signals, these are fun. All right, so what I used to do was when these light signals, there's every ATC control tower has a lighting gun. The gun is literally it's a large, light that is directional, and they pull a trigger and it lights up, and then they can swing, they can turn different things to make it different colors. What I tell my students is when you're going for your long cross-country flight and you have to go to a controlled towered airport to do 3 takeoff and landings, 10 takeoff and landings, I forget, you need to be able to have the experience of having a light show. And so what the tower does, they'll turn up all the lights if there's no other aircraft and they have availability, and you're there by yourself and it's just you and the tower, or maybe 1 or 2 other aircraft. Ask the tower operator for a light show, and basically he'll point the gun at you, the light gun, and you'll see these flashes. So steady green, steady red, flashing white, alternating red and green. And, you know, talk about these and you learn these. And you know what, you actually maybe ask these on the check ride. You know, if you see a steady green from the tower, what does it mean? What does a flashing green mean? You know, if you're in flight, you know, so you have to be able to know these, or at least be able to look those up. But all pilots should know these. So anyways, communication information. Yeah. ATC clearances and aircraft separations for IFR, special VFR clearances. That there's some information there. Okay. If you love the overly technical lessons and the dry humor here on YouTube, you'll absolutely love my online helicopter ground school. I'll walk you through everything you need to know to become a helicopter pilot, minus the sarcasm. No, actually not. Yeah, there will be sarcasm. Head over to 3ghelipprep.com and get started today.